Okay, this is 8.4 homework help. The first problem says find a unit vector that goes from the point P to the point Q. So first of all, I'm going to find the vector PQ. To find the vector PQ, I'm going to do head minus tail rule. So I'm going to do 16 minus 1, which is 15 for the y coordinate, and 9 minus 1, which is 8 for the x coordinate. So if you graph both of these points, you'll see that you go over 8 and up 15 to get from point P to point Q. So the vector is 8, 15. Now, to find a unit vector that's in the same direction, what you do is you divide by the magnitude. So I'm going to find the magnitude. The magnitude you find by doing the Pythagorean theorem. So you square both of these, add them together, and take the square root. That's the Pythagorean theorem. That gives you 17. So my answer then is 8 over 17, comma 15 over 17. All you do to find a unit vector is divide by the magnitude. What's nice about when you have your unit vector is then if you want to find a vector of length 51 pointing in the same direction, you just multiply by 51. And you can distribute that if you want. In fact, Webwork might make you distribute that. So you might have to multiply by 51 by the numerator of both of these numbers. But all you have to do is multiply by that scalar 51. And now you go from a vector that has length 1, which is this one, to a vector that has length 51. Okay, the next question asks, which is traveling faster, a car whose velocity is this or a car whose velocity is this? Now, speed, if we're talking about fast, we're talking about speed, which is a scalar. So what we want is the magnitude of both of these. The magnitude is the length of both of these. You could graph both of them if you want. One goes over 24 up 29. So you'd have, over 24 up 29. And the other one just goes over 30. So that one will be in red. That one just is here, over 30. So one has a magnitude of 30. To find the magnitude of the other one, what I'm going to do is do the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. On this right triangle right here to find this length, which is the magnitude, and that gives you about 37.6. So obviously the first one's faster. I would say the first car for that one. So the speed then is what we get, which was 37.64 if you do the Pythagorean theorem. All right, the next problem then says find the dot product between A and B, and it gives us the magnitude of A and the magnitude of B, and it gives us the angle between them. Now we have a formula in the formula sheet under Chapter 8 formulas, which is the angle between two vectors formula. It's right here. So if you copy this over, they told us the angle between two vectors is pi over 3. So what that means is I can do the cosine of pi over 3 is equal to the dot product between u and v, or I can do a and b. It doesn't matter what variables you use here, which is kind of like multiplying two vectors together, but we call it the dot product. And we call it the dot product because obviously they're not numbers. So multiplying two vectors together has different properties than multiplying two numbers together. All right, so then it also tells us the magnitudes, which in the bottom here, the magnitudes multiplied together will be 9 times 1. So basically we can just solve this now. Just multiply both sides by 9, and that way this cancels from the bottom. And there's our answer then. The dot product equals this quantity right here, which we can do in the calculator. Make sure your calculator is in radian mode, and you should get 4.5. Next question wants us to find a unit vector in the same direction as this again. This one goes over 12 and down 4. So this is the vector right here, where you could make a triangle out of this and break into its x and y components, where this would be 12 and this would be 4, negative 4. Now, first off, what you want to do is find the magnitude, because to find a unit vector, you just simply divide by the magnitude. So the magnitude is the Pythagorean theorem. That'd be 12 squared. The square root of 160 is what you get if you do 12 squared plus 4 squared square rooted. So if I want to find a unit vector, it's just 12 divided by the square root of 160, and that's I, minus 4 divided by the square root of 160j. So all you have to do is divide by the square root of 160. Now you could probably enter this in as 12 divided by the square root of 160, comma, negative 4 divided by the square root of 160, because that's the vector order pair form, and this is I and j. It doesn't matter. Well, it should accept both answers.